From Atlanta,
Thar be dragons!
it's the 9 Billion Names of Pod with Dan Bauman and Michael Reed. I'm Dan Bauman.
I'm discernibly turgid about our prospects in the upcoming midterm elections.
So, let's talk about some stuff.
I'm a little lightheaded as the blood has left my skull.
Hey, we're back. Had a little bit of a summer vacation. Sorry, everybody got kind of busy. But we are back to kind of just talk about a bunch of different stuff.
About stuff. It's
stuff.
a smorgasbord of, I don't know, stuff.
Yeah, we will indulge Michael and get a little into politics because it's getting a little weird. But I'm going to brag on myself a little bit first.
Go. Go.
So, some of you may listen to other podcasts.
What?
And we and Michael and I are both big fans of Kevin Smith, and
Newly slender and
heart
healthy
and
Kevin
heart healthy
Smith.
Weight Watchers ambassador. He tried the whole.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he tried the whole Penn Jillette plant-based diet thing.
Ugh.
Well, he had the heart attack, and he reached out to Penn because Penn had lost 100 pounds.
Oh yeah, he lost a lot of weight.
He lost over 100 pounds, and he basically, Penn's story was that he's 6'7", 6'8".
He's a tall boy.
He's a big boy. And
I mean, he could be 300 pounds and be healthy because he is just that tall.
He was about 350. He said at the
350?
time,
Okay.
and the doctor was like, "Well, we have to do some stomach stapling." And he was on like 8 different medications, and he said, well, am I healthy enough for the surgery right now? And the doctor said, no, you're not. We have to get a little weight off you, and you have to wait, a couple of months. And Penn said that basically gave him permission to go crazy and try to lose all the weight before. And what he did was he found a guy named Ray Cronice who, it's basically veganism, but it's whole plants. It's the whole diet. He has a whole diet called Just Sides, and I've read up on all this stuff because I was really interested in it. And so Penn lost all the weight. Kevin Smith reached out to him and did, for I think the first 6-8 weeks, he did Cronice's diet.
Yeah.
And couldn't hack the straight up vegan thing. So he has gone on to become a Weight Watchers ambassador.
Yeah, okay.
And which is really cool. He's lost the 50 pounds the doctor told him he lost, and he looks really good. He does a podcast, he does several, a gazillion podcasts.
Yeah, he's the one that put podcasts on the major map. I mean, they were around before him, and they've been around after him.
I think Corolla's got him beat, but not by much.
Oh yeah, that's
Corolla
true.
really, he made the empire first.
Yeah, but
he's Corolla.
He's kind of a dick.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, he's pretty good at what he does. He's not my cup of tea.
It's like, stern, funny, good at what he does. Just not, no.
Yeah, he was never.
Although that's Stern of, Stern was on the air when I was in high school.
Oh yeah.
So
and shit, dude, I grew up in New York, so it was like a thing. He
yes.
was on the radio. It
I
all started there.
I do remember I picked up for like $9.99 this little box set called "Banned by the FCC" that he put out.
I know it very well.
And I hung on to it for about 10 years, 15 years or whatever. And apparently it went out of print big time. And this was before file sharing. And I went, threw it up on, not before file sharing, but before it became a huge, before Napster.
Right.
And I think I sold that thing for like $200 and some odd.
Nice.
And so apparently, Stern people,
right.
Anyone who knows anything about Stern knows one thing.
What?
Baba Booey.
Yeah, exactly.
You say Baba Booey, you know exactly where it's from, what it's about.
Oh, I couldn't get away from that shit. And it was just not my
You hear what
thing.
Baba Booey just nailed Trump in the fucking in Air Force One. Was able to pretend he was
no, it wasn't Baba Booey. It was Stuttering John who did that.
Oh, was it? Oh,
yeah,
that's
it was Stuttering
right.
John,
It was
but
Stuttering
same,
John.
same crew.
Right,
yeah.
same crew.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, he does podcasts,
yes.
Mr. Kevin Smith.
He does many podcasts, and he does one that I found, it had to be 6-7 years ago, called Hollywood Babylon. And it's
Babble
on.
Right.
And it's
funny.
It's funny. They do it live. It's somewhat, we kind of copped what they do to a degree.
Oh, do we?
Well, a little bit. But they do it live, and they have segments, and they do,
Well,
bits
they
and
do
pieces.
it live, like with an audience?
Yeah, at a club.
Oh,
They do it
okay.
at the Improv. In many of the improvs. I've been tweeting them for years to try to bring that shit here, but they have not been to Atlanta. His partner.
Well,
on that
we're
show,
a tiny city. Let's see, we're like the first, second, third smallest city in the whole Southeast.
it's the only city in the
Come
South.
on, tours. Stop skipping Atlanta and going to fuck all Miami and Tennessee. We're right here.
We're better than Birmingham. Trust
Yeah,
us.
yes,
Charlotte's
yes.
okay. Atlanta is a bigger city.
Right. Just because Atlanta is, I guess, what they call a chocolate city, doesn't mean that only rap tours succeed here. That's not the case,
No,
people.
not at all.
I don't know why tours don't want to come here. And guess what? People of colors other than white like all kinds of music.
Yes,
It's
and all
kind
kinds of entertainment.
Exactly. It's almost like they're their own people, their own person, and they
Amazing.
make their own decisions about what they like.
Amazing.
I know.
His partner Ralph Garman does. He was the voice guy on K-Rock.
yeah.
He was the Kevin and Bean voice guy.
Didn't he get fired?
Well, he did. He got fired because of budget cuts.
Oh,
Because
so he wasn't fired. He was let go.
he was let go.
let go. Okay,
and
there's
it
different.
was in true radio fashion. He was let go.
Not on air.
Well, no, he was basically came on one morning and said, hate to tell you this, everybody, but this is my last day on the air, and they won't let me tell you why, and I'll see you later. And, Kevin went on a tirade on Instagram and stuff. It's like, okay, here's why they fucking shit canned Ralph. Because he was the best part of the show, in my opinion. And I listened to that show because of him.
The morning show was running over budget-wise, and they said they had to trim somewhere.
CBS, radio is dying a slow, painful death, and CBS sold off all their radio stations. And whoever came in was like, this radio station, which is, this radio morning show, which has been on the air for 27, 28 years.
It was on the air when I was in California.
Early
and,
90s.
Yeah, and that was they were already at least 5 years on the air in 96.
Yeah. So, something like that.
Because I have a collection of you used to be able to go to your local warehouse or Sam Goodies to get their Christmas tape that they would put out, and then later tape, right?
Not CD.
Later on, it did go to a CD,
Right.
but the early ones are the hardest ones to find because they didn't reissue them.
Right.
It was one time a year they would
Put 'em out.
put it out, and that was it. There wasn't no collection. And it was a bunch of live in studio stuff, tracks that were recorded at the Weenie Roast, which is what K-Rock does, and then some of the best comedy bits and parody songs and stuff. It was kind of like a summing up of the year with some interesting stuff. Some of it, sometimes it was Christmas related material. Other times it was just fun. It was put out as a fundraiser for charity.
Yeah.
And I think it changed every year. I can't remember if it did or not. But
I don't know. They stopped doing it when I started. They had stopped doing it by the time I had started listening.
Oh, okay. Christmas CDs or tapes with such wonderful titles as No Juice for OJ. That tells you when, or We Got Your Yule Logs Hanging.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, Garmin on the show, no longer on the show.
No longer on the
now
show.
on Hollywood Babble, on.
Okay, he had been on Babylon for a long time, been doing it, concurrently, gets let go from K-Rock and decides to do his own podcast.
All right.
And it's like a crowdfunded Patreon deal. And
Oh yeah, kind of like what we don't do. Well, then again, we have nowhere near the profile of Ralph Garman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He had a lot of people, from Babylon. and from
I'm
K-Rock.
afraid that if we did like a fundraiser, we've raised $3. Yay!
So he's done. It's a fun show. It's called The Ralph Report, and he does kind of
That was my father's first name.
Was it?
Not a good name to have growing up.
I'm sure
He made that very clear. Because at one point I thought, wouldn't it be cool to be the third? Why didn't you name me Ralph so I could be the third? He goes, you don't. You may like the third, you ain't gonna like the Ralph.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I don't think there was no. I can guarantee there was not a single person in all my years of high school, junior high, elementary, college, anything, any of my schooling. I never encountered a single Ralph.
Well, Garmin always said, that like with him growing up, because he's a little bit older than us. He's 50 something. He said,
wow, he's a lot older than us.
Yeah,
because we're 31.
He said, Ralph Malph from Happy Days just was
Okay.
tormenting for him.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And of course, when your name is also a term for throwing up violently,
yeah.
That's
Your father might have been onto something that is not a great name.
Yeah, it's like, I didn't want to call you Charles, so I named you Upchuck. I'm sure the kids will be merciful.
Yes, the kids will
It's
be.
like, were you ever a kid?
Yeah, do you remember?
I mean, any parents that are naming their children need to sit down and go, all right, let's name him Mitch. Nope, rhymes with bitch. Move on. And keep going and going and going and going until you get, for me, the worst anyone was ever able to come up with, Michael Motorcycle. And I always went, okay.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
Yeah, there's not a lot you can get.
Turn the key and watch him pee. Like, no.
I don't know.
Anything else? Means. And it.
Yeah, Danny, there's not much. It's Danny Boy and Dan the Man and
Dad the Man love attack.
Yeah, I get that, but nothing bad. But Ralph's show, it's basically what he did on the radio. He does the Showbiz Beat. He does little bits and segments.
So he took his segments from K-Rock
basically, yeah, and just does what he does. Kind
of like how Colbert used to do the WORD, the word, on Comedy Central. And occasionally he will bring it out on The Late Show, but it's the WERD. Because the other one
intellectual property
is intellectual property of Comedy Central. That kind of thing. So anyway.
Yeah, Ralph hasn't been busted on anything that he like, I don't think they care.
I think Kevin and Beaver were like, no, upper suit motherfuckers, don't mess with Ralph.
Yeah, you've already fucked us with firing him and let it,
Yeah.
So anyway, on Hollywood Babylon, they, like I said, they've been doing segments and everything. And for since the beginning, if something stuck, if they were doing a thing, some guy, I remember early on, sent some jingle in for one of their segments.
Yeah.
And they started playing it, and it's now part of the show. And it's been part of the show for years.
Yeah.
And when Ralph started doing it, people started doing the same thing, sending in jingles.
Right.
And about 3 weeks ago, he was doing a segment where Ralph kind of like rails against things, sometimes that just make him angry. And angry Ralph, there's nothing funnier than angry Ralph. And
maybe Mark Maron.
Similar.
But it's not so much funny as really kind of exasperatingly angry.
Maron, yes. Ralph just
his character on Glow and him
not
are
much,
like, it's kind of like Louis Black's quote unquote character on the Daily Show is just Louis Black.
Right. So Ralph and his was railing against, of all things, a comic strip called Ziggy, which a lot of people may have never heard of. It's a one-panel comic that's been around for 50 years.
Let's put it this way. If you don't know what Ziggy is, imagine a comic strip that is less funny than Garfield.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Right.
You can't, can you? Well, read some Ziggy.
Yeah. So Ralph was railing against this and said something about, and they did it 2 days in a row because he must have seen two Ziggies in a row, and said, yeah, if you have an idea for a jingle, send it on in. And that night, the next day, I was in the shower and something popped in my head and I was like, I know what that needs to be. And I was like, you know what? I've always wanted, let me do that. And I happen to have an hour free, and I banged it out and I sent it in, and the next morning, nothing happened. Nothing at all. Friday comes and goes. Nothing happened. I think I was in tech all weekend for a show. Nothing, forgot all about it. Monday night, I am working. I was at home. I was doing something with Courtney. We were working on some sound thing for she's doing, and I get a text from my buddy. Holy shit, dude! I heard your thing from Ralph's show. your Ziggy thing. That was amazing. And I was like, wait, they played it? So if you'll all indulge me, I'm going to throw that up right now. So take a listen.
And then this email came from Dan Bauman, and I want to give Dan much love. He is a 3-star general. He is a theatrical sound designer in Atlanta, Georgia, and he has donated to us what I think is the perfect jingle for our new ongoing segment where we look at the Ziggy comic strip.
Oh, nice.
Ziggy is terrible. Ziggy has been with us since 1968. And again, this is the reason behind the majority of my outrage. Is not just that a lot of successful things come and go, and I get that. But this thing debuted in 68 and is still with us in 2018. That means 50 years Ziggy has been allowed to exist without being funny once. And I'm furious about
No accountability.
No Ziggy is terrible. And as I mentioned, we've read a couple of Ziggy cartoons out loud. And I said, if you have an idea for a Ziggy jingle, please send it along. And Dan Bauman sent this one in. And when I heard it, I was like, it's kind of genius. Here is Dan's tribute to how much Ziggy sucks.
Ziggy's terrible.
Right? It's short and it's perfect. Ziggy's terrible from Dan Bauman.
Oh.
For those of you who did not look at Ziggy over the weekend, I pulled out one of the weekend Ziggies. It is from, Saturday, I think.
It's brilliant.
A lot of people suggesting, nothing against you, Eddie Pence.
No,
a lot of people
you're the
suggesting
voice
that
guy.
maybe I should voice Ziggy.
Absolutely voice Ziggy. You're the voice guy.
Because, not that you're not trying,
No.
but you have a hard time with
Words,
lowercase i's.
Upside down
words.
apostrophes.
So this is the Ziggy from the weekend. It is Ziggy. And if you even know the character of Ziggy, it's a small, bald, fat man with no pants. Wearing
Or
a
sense
shirt,
of humor.
Or a sense of humor. And he says things that I guess are supposed to be comic, but it's a one-panel comic strip, and it's never funny. Ziggy is terrible, is what we're saying, and that's why the new
Ziggy's terrible.
Ziggy is terrible, is what we're saying.
Good voice.
So Ziggy is standing there in a void. It's very artistic. He's
always
standing
in a
in a void.
void.
He's staring out at the viewer, at the reader, and here's what he says. I know we should all try to avoid advertising our shortcomings, but I feel like mine keep running during the Super Bowl.
You almost feel like there should be something coming after that.
Nope.
That would be the punchline.
It's not the setup at all. That was the
setup.
setup and the punchline. One more time. Here we go. This is Ziggy and the setup and the punchline of what is called a comic strip. I know we should all try to avoid advertising our shortcomings, but it feels like mine keep running during the Super Bowl. By the way, you have to remember, that took place in August, that comic strip. That wasn't something that...
The month we're in right now.
That wasn't the one that aired in January.
During the Super Bowl, when that would have been apropos.
But even then, right?
Right.
Right.
Well done, sir.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
It was a very nice surprise to, use the skills I've obtained in the last couple of years to get, to do something
For
cool.
free that will make you absolutely no money, but lots of recognition.
Yeah,
and now everyone in the podosphere knows there's a sound designer in Atlanta that knows his shit and has a pretty decent voice.
Yeah, somebody on Twitter, not Twitter, on Facebook Messenger sent me a thing. Hey, it's glad to know there's other Garmy members in Atlanta. I was like, hey, awesome, So very cool. So I had a little fun with that.
Well done, sir.
Thank you.
Well
Thank you
done.
for that. What else is going on?
Oh, I don't know. Star Wars fans are being dicks.
They have been dicks since Last Jedi. Since Force Awakens came out.
Really, and I have to count myself amongst them, really since Phantom Menace. But
It's different, though.
But
They were mad at
Phantom
the
Menace-
actual. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yes. That's the thing. I have no problem with being just angry and venting about the product that's put out there. From what I understand, some people are harassing the act, like the woman Kelly
Marie Tran.
Marie Tran. I didn't read any of the complaints they had. It's like, was her acting bad? Okay, that's an opinion you can have. I thought it was fine.
It all started there because they didn't like the movie, and then it all got like way ugly.
So let's go ahead and find the woman. Oh no, let's find the non-white woman, and then go and
yes, that's where it got really scary and gnarly. It happened with there's an actress named, or let's say an actor named Ruby Rose, who is on Orange Is the New Black.
Oh yeah, she got cast as
Batwoman.
Yeah,
and
she's a bisexual Batwoman.
Batwoman is bisexual, despite what people think.
Was that a thing before?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
very
that's
good.
in the comics. Our good friend Coop schooled me on that because I had not read Batwoman.
She is a comic book geniurito
aficionado.
Yeah,
and
she knows.
especially she schooled me hardcore on Batwoman. How Batwoman has been around since like the 60s or 70s, and she was bisexual or a lesbian, and it kind of like was a little too much for the comic industry, as you can imagine. Blah 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 blah
blah blah.
And same thing happened. Like she was cast, and she left social media because fandom was being shitty to her.
What was the complaint?
I don't know. That wasn't good enough or whatever. I don't know. It's.
You know what? My experience is that what's in your head almost is never, ever, ever going to be outdone or even equaled by what is put on the screen.
No.
Because in your head is your vision. But guess what? You're not making the goddamn film / TV show / anything creative. Right. What they're doing is their vision, and you can like their vision or not, but getting angry at an actress for portraying a role that you hold dear, it's like, just wait. Batwoman will be another actress in another generation or another 15 years or whatever.
Right.
It's not permanent. You know, Burt Ward is not still Robin, you know, in perpetuity forever.
Yeah,
you know?
and you know, getting back to like Star Wars, be happy we have a new Star Wars movie. Don't, you know, just because, did you hear about the fucking petition or something? They were trying to raise $15 million to reshoot The Last Jedi.
Yeah. $15 million. That'll cover craft services for that production.
And not to mention, you know, one of your lead actors is dead.
Yeah.
And you can't fix that. And it's a dumb idea.
I mean, you know, I've got little quibbles here and there about that film, but you know what? It was a fine film.
But that's the story that we were given.
Right.
And
let's face it, folks. To us who grew up with the original, we're not going to have that feeling again.
I think that's the problem.
It's not, no film will equal the feeling you had when you saw Star Wars, A New Hope in the theater, or any of the Star Wars films that you started on for another generation. They have that feeling about Phantom Menace.
They do,
because they were 8 years old and the pod racing and Jar Jar. Oh, it's so great.
And there's a generation after that grew up on the cartoons, on the Clone Wars.
So you know what? If you're trying to, you know, relive that feeling that you got when you were a completely different person, and I mean completely different.
Completely.
If you saw Star Wars in the theater and you remember it, you're in your 40s. You're not a child anymore.
Right.
You're not even close to a child or a teenager or a young adult. You're solidly middle age. And you're not going to get that feeling that you get
here's the thing.
From that first experience.
I got some of those feelings from Phantom Menace.
Oh!
Sorry. Forgive me. Strike that from the record.
Please.
Last Jedi.
Oh, yes. Of course.
All the Luke stuff. I mean, I was in tears when R2 shot the hologram of Leia, you know, cheap move. I mean, that was those feelings.
And that was concessions that the filmmaker, for better or for worse, in my case, I think better, paid to the older fan generation.
Right.
Because the younger ones may be like, oh, yeah, that's that thing from that movie. Okay. For us, it'd be like,
oh, my God, there she is.
It's the thing.
It's that moment that brought him out of that planet.
Right. But see, that's tying back to that first film.
Yeah.
That makes you give those feels. None of those feels that I got from any of the subsequent Star Wars films after the original 3, not many of the feels were unrelated to the first trilogy. Those little callbacks, those little moments. There's some that's, that's good. But it's people who want to live in that initial, like, remember that, a band comes out and releases an album. Oh, yeah. And then after a while, like, they're not so good anymore.
Right.
Maybe or maybe not. But you're never going to have that. You know what? That first shot of heroin, you will never get as good a shot as that first shot of heroin, or so I'm told.
Interesting example, but
Right.
I get your meaning.
And you keep chasing that original high,
Yep.
and it wrecks your life. Same thing with trying to, find fault with, I got to get it back to where I got to get that initial A New Hope high.
Yeah.
And
you have to find those on your own. You can't be mad at what you're given.
No, and I get those feelings now from other stuff that I'm now experiencing for the first time.
Doctor Who wrecks me half the time.
Yeah, and those episodes, 2005 was the starting of the new iteration.
Yeah.
So the feels are there.
Right, and I'm, experiencing it for the first
Right.
time.
It's not that those feelings of great connectivity and empathy and being able to relate to stop as soon as you're, out of high school or something like that.
Yeah.
The Breakfast Club. When you get older, your heart dies. It just happens. You know what? Fuck that shit.
No.
I see places in my life where I'm going, nope, not going to let that happen, because that is true. As you get older, you become less receptive and open to stuff. And I feel it kind of looming over me from time to time. And I go, no.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to try that new designer drug just like I would when I... No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to take that shot of heroin, goddammit.
Yes, we've been meaning to talk about that with you, and that's what all these people are doing here today,
trust
Michael.
me,
It's not a podcast; it's an intervention.
Intervention. Yeah, trust me. If I was doing drugs, I'd be a lot more slender than I am now. I think I'm going to go on meth for about 2 months, get real skinny, and then kick it just like that. Because that's a thing that happens. Hopefully, I'll still have all my teeth, and I won't have robbed everyone I know and alienated everybody.
Yes.
So fingers crossed.
But going back, because again, they released. It was, I guess it was Comic-Con a couple weeks ago. They dropped a bombshell on us that they were doing new episodes of Clone Wars.
Yeah. Well, you know what the biggest bomb that was dropped recently?
What?
Not Star Wars related.
What?
Star Trek related.
Oh yes. Well, we'll get to that. Yeah.
Okay.
Just to wrap up the Star Wars thing. They had dropped a teaser trailer and say we're doing new Clone Wars episodes, which nobody saw coming because they've been working on a show called Resistance, which they finally dropped a new trailer for.
And people immediately started shitting all over it. And you know what? As much as I'm angry at George Lucas for the absolute shit show that was the prequels and some of the dodgy choices made in the Indiana Jones films, I understand his feeling like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm selling Lucasfilm. I'm going to do what I want to do. I don't feel obligated to this anymore because I don't need that shit. And you know what? In his mind, it's his thing he created. He did the prequels the way he wanted to. They sucked, but that was his artistic vision.
Yeah, that's what he wanted to do.
And for people of our age, like I said, it was less than satisfying.
Yeah.
For the kids seeing that the first time, that's their
thing.
That's their touchstone. That's their go-to. Like, oh, remember the first time you saw Phantom Menace? Like, yeah.
And we can't.
I cried mostly on the way out of the theater.
And you can't fault the kids for that either. That's not their fault.
No, of course not. Now, just like I grew up watching and performing in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I love that film.
Yep.
I know it's a complete shit film. But it's wonderful to me.
Absolutely. Same here. If you show it to someone just sitting in, like, I think, I can't remember who it was. Somebody was watching. They were talking to me. I was like, I watched that on TV and I didn't get it. And it's that's not the point.
No.
You have to be in a theater with a bunch of other weirdos who...
The time to watch it at home is within 24 hours of having seen it in the theater so you can understand some of the dialogue you miss because of all the yelling and the callbacks and the toilet paper and the cards and the lighters and the people copping your ball. No, I'm sorry.
Depends on where...
Oh, believe me. believe me, San Diego in the 80s. Let's just say in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, there was, when they say fuck the back row, there was some fucking in the back row.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of that at the Midway Theater as well in New York.
It's good times. Good times.
Good times.
But like you said, if I were to sit down, having never experienced that, and watch it now, I'd be like, okay, it's a fair to middling musical with some weird shit I don't understand.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's just the way it is.
Yep.
That's the way it is.
And again, the reactionary. I'm getting really tired of the toxic fandom who hate everything. And I used to joke about, oh, nerds, we just hate everything that we love. And I've stopped saying that because it's becoming true.
Well, it's the same thing as like you can't criticize America or you're unpatriotic. No, I criticize America because I'm extremely patriotic and I want it to be better. And there's a mechanism for the average person like ourselves to affect change on a small level and together as a voting bloc to make change. Mm-hmm. When it comes to films that are out or are in pre-production, maybe an outcry might change something. Maybe. I don't know. But once something's out, it's done. You're not going to go back. There's going to be no re-edit or reshooting of The Last Jedi.
No.
It's never going to happen unless Lucas rebuys his company back and decides to do the
It doesn't make any sense. The whole point of art is to elicit a response. And good or bad.
And for the artist to fully realize their vision. Yeah. If you don't like the vision, then don't.
Then that's part of the thing. That's part of the experience.
I happen to think, some of Robert Mapplethorpe's photographs are a little yikes, but they're very artistic. Yeah. They're not personally for me, but I would never criticize them. Yeah. I would never say, oh, that's deeply horrible and offensive. Like, it ain't what I would hang on my wall, but you know what? That's got artistic merit. Good for you. On your way.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I know. It's a little hypocritical of me to be saying that because I've been just so down on those prequels.
But that's your opinion.
But that's just me.
But you're not calling for them to be taken away.
That's me bitching and venting on a podcast.
Right.
And at parties. And to anyone who will hear me on the street. My bullhorn rental fees are getting out of control.
Yeah, the protest signs were a little much, but I get it.
I know, yeah. So, but this...
And the thing about it is, like, it's almost as if the fans, quote unquote, like, didn't even watch the trailer for Resistance. They just, its existence, like, offended them. And I watched the trailer. I was like, this looks cool. It's a weird new style of animation, but so was Clone Wars when it started. Yeah. I was like, I don't know if I like this, but as soon as you get into the story, that all goes away. And it becomes, even better. And then Rebels after that. And now it's like a new, different thing. I'm getting tired of having to defend what I like to the people who are supposed to be of like mind. You know what I mean?
Right. And I'm sure you pretty readily admit, none of it is as good as A New Hope. But it doesn't have to be to be enjoyable.
Right.
Everyone's saying, well, it's the death of the Star Wars movie franchise after, Solo only did $350 million. Like, that's pretty good.
Still fine.
Now, that's low for a Star Wars film.
Absolutely.
But it's okay.
And again, they were like, oh, it had the highest budget of any Star Wars movie, and it only made this much. It's like, yeah, it had the highest budget because they made it twice. They shot it twice, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
They started over. And
I always wanted to say Lord and Taylor. It's Lord and who?
Miller.
Yeah. I know what Lord and Taylor is.
That's a clothing store.
Yeah. That's where we go to shop, Sweetie Dolly.
Yes. No, but I mean, just going back to my point was we
have a point?
Well, kind of. Top of the head. You and I grew up, as much as we joke about not being old, you and I grew up in the age before everybody's mother knew who Captain America was, and before we were inundated with
before the saturation and the full implementation of home media.
Right,
it existed, but it was like, yeah, I got a VCR, cost $800, and the tapes are $100.
But even that, in that day and age, every 5 years we would get one shitty superhero movie,
right?
And now we get brilliant stuff all the time. and we
and some not
and
so
some not so,
brilliant.
but we get some
Justice League. Sorry.
right, but we get that stuff.
Right.
There's no shortage of it,
Right.
and everybody, because of all the Marvel movies, it really started with Lord of the Rings, but all the Marvel movies, everyone, is open about their fandom and likes all this stuff.
Right.
Whereas when we were kids, we kind of, if you were a nerd, you were a nerd, and that was not a good thing.
Well, see, that's the thing with me growing up. I'd say half of my high school time was definitely what would be considered a rocker.
Same here.
We were
yeah.
called rocker.
Yep.
But I would be blasting Beastie Boys' License to Ill at lunch,
Right.
Paul Simon's Graceland. I worked, doing theater. So I had the look, because my first and best love at that point was metal. I was a metal guy.
Same here.
But I was listening to everything, doing everything. And, the way that peer pressure is made to be very prevalent in school, in film and television.
Yeah.
I'm sure it existed somewhere and probably at my school, just not for me.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. I was offered drugs plenty of times, and most of the time I said no. And it was never like, come on, man, what are you, chicken? It was like, fine, I was being nice, more for me. No peer pressure.
Yeah.
But
I mean, music is one thing. Music is a little different. At that time,
music allows you to kind of identify with a group.
yeah.
And I identified with the metal crowd. But I dated a goth girl for a while in
Right.
high school. And, it was a bit of a thing for other people. For us, like, give us a shit.
But I mean, music-wise, that was a little more...
It was a little more segregated.
A little more segregated, a little more acceptable on a wider scale. Whereas, like you read comic books and you're a geek, you're a nerd, little glasses. And
that I remember, because there was a guy at school.
That's my whole point of it. The thing is, I'm tired of it's like reverting back to that. Now our peers of nerds are becoming bullies within our own community.
But
and
also,
it's like, that's making me insane.
But also, some of these nerds grew up and they're Kevin Feige.
Yes,
And
yes, and they're J.J. Abrams.
And they're kind of Kathleen Kennedy.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But I mean, yes, that's why we're at where we're at, because those people, your JJs, your Kevin Feige's, grew up in that era of this is not, you got to hide this stuff, and now it's wide open.
Well, that's why I think that any of these large franchises like, the Marvel films and Star Wars and all that other kind of stuff would do well to put on the payroll a super fan. So at least there's somebody, there's representation. Like, no. It should be red, then blue, then white, not blue, red. So you get the stripes right from, if it makes no difference. And they may say, it should be like this. And they go, no, we can't do that because of that. Oh, all right. Well, at least there's input there.
Right.
When you're dealing with this kind of stuff, if you're doing just like a regular old script, there's no super fan for something that doesn't exist yet.
But if you're doing a medical thing, you have a doctor as a consultant. You're doing a military thing, you have a staff sergeant.
Because for, let's say 90% of the population, you could say, give me the Flexo tool for the whizzle bang, and they'll be, okay, and everyone's like, all right. But that 10%, the movie's ruined. Because they go, that's not right.
That's not the right
That's not the name. And you would never do that in
it's
this
happened.
case.
Yeah, a million times back in the day.
Right.
And
So if you can do it right, why not do it right?
that's always been the argument.
right. So
That's always been the argument.
But that's not to say there needs to be like an advisory nerd board for every film. Like, no, we declare she should not have
Guilty.
A-cup breasts. She should have double D's, like the comics. Like, no, we're not doing that.
that's a little.
Well, you know how these fanboys can get sometimes. Some of them can be just as misogynistic.
Oh yeah,
the superheroes fighting for right. Except for that bitch, because we're gonna, I'm like, no, stop.
That's what I mean.
You fight for the ideals of mankind and goodness, and then you lay on all this racism and sexism and all this other shit that, like on Miss Tran,
Yeah.
what?
And Miss Rose and so.
Women.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
What's the common thread there? I tell you, to put it very crassly, bitches ain't putting up with that shit no more.
No.
And thank God.
Yeah.
If you got away with it for what, 3,000 years of recorded history.
Time's up, motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. Time's up. We've had a good run. Well, no, we're still in the run. We're just co-running,
Yes.
or as we should be. And
There's enough room for everybody.
yes, exactly. Your rights don't mean less rights for me.
Yeah.
Gays can marry now. Now I can never marry. Really? What's stopping you? No girl will like me. Well, that's your problem. That has nothing to do with the gays.
Somebody posted something with all the political stuff going on.
Yeah.
Somebody posted something.
There's political stuff going
A
on?
little bit.
right.
Something about as referring to Mike Pence, saying that when 45 is impeached, we should impeach 46 before he gets to be president anyway. And I got a lot of responses because I tweeted back, 46 should be an African American Muslim woman who is bisexual.
And transgender and disabled.
Yes.
No, differently
Abled.
I
yes.
mean, I think people that are disabled are cool with disabled. I think going too far, but I mean, differently.
You know
able.
what I mean.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know exactly. And that's the thing. I've always said I will not be happy until America elects, similar to what you just said. Just where all the boxes of quote unquote the oppressed minorities, because let's face it, I think they said in about 20 years, America's not going to be majority white anymore, and I welcome it.
Yes.
And of course, after the midterms, the state houses and the House, Congress is going to be not majority women. We're not there yet, but a lot more.
Yeah.
Angie's List in the last midterm election said that they had 900 women seeking help with running for office. That's what Angie's List does. It empowers women and tells them, here's what you need to do.
Oh, okay.
You're just a regular citizen who's outraged. You want to run for Congress. We can help you with this, this, and this. 40,000 this cycle.
40,000 what?
Women have asked Angie's List for help. 900, now 40,000.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad.
Something about chickens and roosting.
That roost is jam-packed.
This November is going to be a bloodbath.
I hope so.
I hope.
I never put it
No.
past America to do the stupidest thing ever, or the DNC to screw it up.
Yeah.
They're the one.
and the the GOP to cheat and lie and do whatever they can.
Well,
do.
you heard what they recently tried to do in one of the counties here in Georgia.
Yep.
It was a predominantly black county, mostly African American voters. Low income. So they said, those 8 polling places where you could vote last time, we're going to go ahead and close 7 of them. So there's just 1. And
That's not very much accessible by public transport.
Exactly. And if you're low income, maybe you work more than
They've been purging voter rolls.
Right. Yeah.
And
basically, if they sent out a postcard saying you're a voter, right, and you don't reply back, then
they took you off a list.
Then they assume that you're dead or gone or don't care, and they take you out. Yeah, they're doing everything they possibly can. And luckily, it went to a vote, and they said, nope, we're not doing that.
Yes.
Now, I don't know about you, Dan, but I firm, at least for federal elections, you can't dictate to the states in this because state elections are based on, state rules.
Okay.
But at least for federal elections, National frickin' Voting Day. And it doesn't have to be during the week. So businesses have to make it voting weekend, a Saturday and a Sunday.
Yes.
Like the first Saturday and Sunday
Not
in
Tuesday,
November.
7 to 7.
Exactly.
When most people have to go to work.
Right, exactly.
Yes, you have special dispensation. It's supposedly you have to be given whatever it is, an hour or whatever, to go and vote.
I don't know the exact rules.
I
for
remember,
that.
and I think that varies from place to place.
Right.
But still, it's not convenient.
One of the ways that not being able to vote because of scheduling difficulties and because votes may be fucked with because of electronic interference.
Yeah.
We found out how easy it was to hack and change things in a voting machine.
Yep.
I think an 11-year-old did it in under 5 minutes.
Something to that effect, yes.
Oregon, I believe it's Oregon, either Oregon or Washington. I think it's Oregon. there are no polling stations. Everybody votes by mail. What's the advantage to that? You can do it at your leisure, at your house, mail it in, and there's a paper trail.
Or just do both. Have a printout of your receipt or whatever.
Oh, well, we could have something like that getting started, but the Republicans just decided to vote no on appropriating funds to update
Upgrade,
machines and
course
stuff
they
like
did.
that because, hey, it worked for us last time. Maybe it'll work for us this time. Not that November was going to have any effect if that money had been appropriated. It's a long procurement time, but it might have been done in time for 2020.
Yeah.
When it's who knows who's running. I honestly don't think either he's not going to make it to re-election, or if he completes his first term, he's not going to seek re-election.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, he's just arrogant enough to go again. Yeah, for sure.
I think the whooping he's going to take, the shellacking, to use another presidential term that Obama used in, was it 2010? I think it's going to, well, first of all, the shellacking will put the Democrats in charge of the House, probably not the Senate, so we'll continue to pack the courts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stay good, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, please. But basically, all of a sudden, when they have control of the House, they have subpoena power now. Agenda number one, item number one, your fucking tax returns.
Yep.
That's legal. It's totally, they can subpoena anyone's tax returns. They can subpoena your tax returns.
Well, even just, I think more to your previous point, if all goes well in November and we take back a lot of it, he'll get so frustrated that he can't get anything done.
Well, the thing is that he may lash out in ways that he does have the power with executive orders and maybe bombing some shit.
Still, we know how volatile he is as it is. And if, and now he's surrounded by yes men. And
well, he won't be protected because let's face it.
That's what I'm talking
the
about. The
Republican House has protected him.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
And,
if we can break down that wall.
Well, and that's the thing. If November is an absolute repudiation, I mean, yeah, he may hold his 30% of the base.
Yeah.
The people that, would say, oh, you shot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue? We're fine with that. Those 30% are, you can just write those people off. They're either too blind or too stupid to get with the program. But there's that middle, there's those people that were kind of like, well, I don't know, Hillary, Trump. These people, I don't understand their shit at all.
And, that's over at this point.
Well, yeah. If they were kind of like, well, I'll give Trump a try. Yeah, you tried it. Now, we just got to make sure that there's a decent, Democratic nominee in 2020.
That's what they need. That's been the problem the whole time, is that the DNC has been such a bunch of idiots that they've fucked up almost every opportunity they've had.
If they had not put their thumb on the scale for Hillary, it might have still been Hillary, but it could have been Bernie. And from what I understand, he would have trounced Trump. Because remember, Trump's margin was literally roughly 70,000 votes across 3 states. That's it. That was the difference between victory and defeat for Hillary Clinton.
She should have fucking announced him as her running mate.
Yep.
And that would have been the end of it. Done.
And we don't know. Maybe she said, you've lost, the nomination. Would you like to come on as my VP? He might have, we haven't heard anything, but he might have said, no, I don't want to do that.
True. I mean,
and that's fine. I mean, he's a senator. That's pretty decent.
Yeah. He can still get stuff done.
That has some power. As we all know, the vice president breaks the tie in the Senate, and then he also I don't know. Picks out the draperies and I don't know.
Well, if Julie Louis-Dreyfus is any
oh god. Yes, exactly.
We know exactly what
exactly. The best situation to happen, I do not want Trump to be impeached, because you will get Pence. I want him to be neutered by the midterms and then run out his time in office just not being able to do anything and squirming and maybe going to jail, who knows. But if he finishes his term, that means that the next president, who will almost certainly be a Democrat, but you never know.
You never
The
know.
pendulum swings. But here's the thing. If Trump gets impeached, Pence can come right behind and pardon him like Ford did to Nixon.
Yeah.
If they both go out of office together, there's no pardon to be had.
Right.
There's no pardon happening. So, although there is that time between November and January, who knows what shenanigans could happen in those couple of months, almost 3 months. Kind of like, yeah, let's go ahead and set some stuff up. You never know.
Never know.
So,
But there you go.
It is what it is. I'm looking forward to the midterms.
Yeah.
And voting as hard as I can.
Yes.
If I could vote multiple times, I wouldn't, because that's illegal and wrong.
Exactly.
But my one vote will be very hard.
Yes.
I mean, at this point, they could run the lead singer of Creed against a Republican, and I'd go, I'm voting for the Creed guy.
Yep.
Because he has a D by his name. At this point, it's, I hate to say it, I'm not a straight ticket voter. It's just that I've never run into a Republican that I would ever want to vote for.
And that's only because Nickelback is Canadian. So there you go.
There you go. There you go. Hey, they've got a couple of catchy songs.
Oh my God.
Oh, God, that hurt saying that. And speaking of big, hot, sweaty messes,
Yes.
Atlanta is about to be descended upon by the dragons.
Yes.
And they will gather in downtown Atlanta and con you. I'm running out of ways to
Dragoncon.
It's Dragoncon.
Yes, Dragoncon.
It's basically, aren't we second only to Comic-Con?
I've never seen, there's so many now,
I
like
know.
Comic-Con and International has now, like New York Comic-Con is actually really big.
Yeah.
But it's only like a 2-day affair from what I understand.
Oh, wow.
And there's a shit ton of cons.
Well,
I mean,
let's face it. Here in Atlanta, Dragoncon is really only choice Friday and Saturday for those 2 days. I mean, the Thursday and the Sunday has some good stuff, but the meat is Fridays and Saturdays.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But the thing, and even now, with the schedule they've released it, there is literally programming going on the entire 4 days. Be it there's like one room that's playing Marvel movies perpetually. It does not stop. 4 a.m. you can go watch Captain America or whatever.
Wow.
It's crazy.
I could never do that.
Exactly. But
Except at my own house in my own theater.
when you're all tweaked out on booze and ready to, and hanging out with
Sure,
nerds.
that's the only way I watch films.
But that's how you do it at Dragon.
I don't know how you get tweaked out on booze, but I'll look into that.
Yeah.
So as we all know, I'm a horrible drug addict.
At this point we are set up Friday, I believe, at 4 p.m. we will get our pictures with Catherine Tate from Doctor Who.
Ooh.
And then Sunday
And The Office.
and The Office, yeah, and the Catherine Tate show more so.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday.
So you have an appointment for that?
Yes.
Oh, they're doing that now.
That's the way to do it. Yeah, it's
You know what?
expensive.
That's
fix.
actually smart, because that way you don't have to stand in line for 40 hours and all of a sudden she's on a break now.
Yeah, no, it's basically you have an appointment, you're in this group at this time, and then it's kind of a meat grinder.
Do you pay in advance?
Yeah, I've already paid for it. Yeah, and it's kind of, and it's like the professional. They're standing in front of step and release, and you just come up and hello and take a picture, and then you move on and get the picture. And it's a little bit of a meat grinder because you don't really get like an interaction too much, because we did it with Matt Smith last year or the year before. And it was fine, but it was kind of like, hey, snap, gone, kind of thing.
And you know what? I mean, they're there to make the money that they make,
Right.
but also to see as many people as possible.
Right. And Matt Smith was
Basically, they're like doctors in the American healthcare system. Hey, we saw you. Look at that. Looks bad. I'll write a prescription. Bye. And they're out
and yeah, exactly.
in a cloud of dust in 30 seconds.
And, it also depends, because I've seen pictures like that from other people, and they've set up funny things with some of the people. There's a great shot of Lena Headey and Peter Dinklage with some fan at the thing, and he's.
Is it Headey? I thought it was Headley.
I think it's Headey.
Is there an L in there?
I think there's.
know what?
Looks like there's supposed to be one, but I don't think there is.
Okay. Fine enough.
I've taken to saying it that way. But the dude is wearing it's kind of the Obama shirt, but it says pimp and it's Tyrion Lannister's picture, and they're both looking off like, ugh. Stephen Amell from Arrow, his profile photo on Twitter for like a year and a half was him with a fan, and she's a girl wearing she was like workout gear, and her slogan on the shirt was do squats as if Stephen Amell was watching or something, and she's doing a squat and he's like, so
I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and John Barrowman is the best. He's just such a lunatic.
Having not been in that situation, I don't think ever. I'm sure there are some that are like, fine, take picture, go, get out of here, next. And some that are like, hey, we're having fun here.
Absolutely.
So it's a crapshoot. You never know if you're going to get, and even on the same day, at the beginning of the day, zip, zip, zip. By the end of the day, come on, take the picture.
True. So I'm excited about.
Says the people that are used to 14-hour days shooting, all of a sudden taking pictures with fans. That's too much.
Yeah. On Sunday, we get our picture with Peter Capaldi, so I'm excited about that.
My.
We landed that, and
you are taking a vacation to the United States of Eyebrows,
Indeed.
The Independent Republic of Eyebrows.
Indeed, and I felt bad, but a buddy of mine at work,
Peter's and Christopher Robin.
That's what I heard. Yeah, he's Rabbit.
He's Rabbit.
Yeah,
which I saw.
Feels. I have not gotten to see it yet.
It's fun. It's a fun thing.
A friend of mine at work, he just got married.
Yeah.
And I don't know, 2 months ago we were talking about Dragoncon. He's a huge Firefly fan as we are. And he said, he just jokingly was like, watch, this will be because he's on his honeymoon in Scotland. He's like, this will be the year that Gina Torres from Firefly will be there. And
she is?
And she, I said everything. I was like, I hate to break this to you, and I just sent him the picture, and he's like, I have a mission for you. I was like, I accept. I know what it is. He has a book that he's gotten almost the whole cast to sign.
Nice.
So I have it. It's like in a protective case and all this stuff.
It'd be like, take Oz to Dragoncon, except take this book to
exactly.
Gina Torres.
I'm going to take the ring to Mount Doom.
So here's a question. Are we going to see Patrick Stewart at Dragoncon this year?
Not this year. No.
Not this year. But you know where we are going to see him? One of the big announcements at Comic-Con, Picard is back.
Picard is back.
And it's going to be a new series. It's not like they bring in one of the oldies. Remember when like Bones would show up on Next Generation?
Oh, yeah. They all did pretty much.
This apparently, there's going to be a whole Picard series
when
now.
When they announced Discovery, Star Trek Discovery,
I kind of yawned a bit.
I was like, well, I didn't want, I watched
the first 2 episodes. It was fine.
Yeah.
But
I hear it's fine. I'm not that big a Star Trek fan. I watched all of Next Generation. I watched a good chunk of Voyager, a good chunk of Deep Space Nine.
Right.
Didn't watch any of Enterprise. And when they announced, we're doing, this new series that's going to be on the CBS platform app thing, and I was like, I'm not paying
another
money for
platform.
that. I was like, no, thanks. And then,
But now. I'm gonna get the platform for the Picard show.
I think I have to.
You have to. I mean, first of all, it's Picard.
Yeah.
It's Patrick Stewart, man.
Stewart back in some kind of role.
I don't know what they're gonna. Maybe. Well, it can't be like he's an admiral now. Just him for like 6 hours a day at his desk going, stamp, approved. It's like, would you like some cream in your coffee? Make it so.
Yeah.
Heavy sigh. I remember.
My favorite line is from Patrick Stewart is still from
Family Guy?
No, it's
American Dad.
American Dad,
Yeah.
where he's like, I'm giving you a 0 for the day. So just
his comedy chops have definitely. I wouldn't say they were ever bad, but they've been utilized far more recently.
Oh, yes.
And then they completely dropped off the face of the earth with the Emoji Movie.
well, yeah,
He played the poop emoji.
yeah,
I mean, okay. Everyone has their paycheck films.
yeah. It was a choice.
And you know what? At this point, he's just having fun.
That's all. Yeah, he's
know?
completely.
If this
having
is someone in their, for lack of a better term, their young prime. He's still in his prime,
Absolutely,
in my opinion.
yeah.
But in his, if you're just getting established, if you're less than 10 years in your career and you do some blatant paycheck film called, I don't know, Paycheck,
No one would ever be dumb enough to do that.
No one would ever be dumb enough. All right, we wish you luck in rehab there, Ben.
Yeah, we do. Actually.
Maybe no, seriously, we do. I mean, because after he went through that period and then came back with Hollywoodland, I went okay, and then he directed some stuff. I went okay.
Yeah.
Then he did Batman. I went okay.
Yeah,
That's okay. So we'll see where that goes. Yeah. I don't think he's going to be directing any Batman films.
Well, no, that's already off the table.
Maybe he's going to come back as Batman. I don't know.
Don't know.
But anyway, we're gonna get Jean-Luc Picard, which opens the door. Are we gonna get some of the? I mean, I don't know what the construct of what's the premise of the series.
Nobody knows
exactly,
and even he said we don't know what this is yet. Like there's no like idea. I think it was more like, hey, if we were going to do this, would you do it? Because we're not going to do anything else unless you say yes. Right. And I think he said, yes, I would like to do this. Okay, we'll go figure out what that is, and we'll come back in a couple of months.
Okay.
That's what I think, because he said they didn't, like, his announcement speech was something to that effect. Like, we don't know what we're going to do. We don't know what this is, but I'm going to be back as Picard. And it's like, that's all you need. Done. Sold.
I mean, it can't be a rebooting under another name of Next Generation.
No. It
needs to be something completely different.
It'll be Jean-Luc Picard.
And of course, it can't be, before he was captain of the Enterprise. Like,
no.
He's not looking old.
It has to be
old,
post all that.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Who knows what it's going to be?
And
I mean, didn't Kirk get to be admiral at some point?
Yeah.
But then, for some reason, he always ended up commanding the ship. Much like against any military, common sense, we got to go down to this hostile planet. Great. Let's take our first, our captain, our first officer, our science officer, and our engineer.
Yes.
Because they're totally expendable.
Right.
And a red guy. There we go.
Let
him take the brunt of it all. So I'm pumped for that.
I'm very excited.
I mean, unless, well, you know what? Even if the trailer they put together when it's ready is shit, it's Patrick fucking Stewart.
It's going to be good. He will be good, and it'll figure itself out.
Yeah, well, he's a Shakespearean actor.
He is. He is
Shakespearean. I personally would like to see a buddy film of some with him and Ian McKellen.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, not The Odd Couple.
No,
that's been done.
No,
to
just
death.
let.
Although they would rule doing that
Yeah.
if they did that, but no, something else where they could.
Just two guys who broke out of the home to have one, Ferris Bueller's Day Off with septuagenarians.
How old is Pat? He must be in
his
70?
late.
Is he?
I don't think he's
70
late
yet?
70s. I think he's 70-ish.
Well, I just realized I've been rewatching all the Indiana Jones films lately because I did.
Why not?
I've watched them all except Crystal Skull, and I'm like, okay, maybe. Harrison Ford is 76 now.
Yes.
Next year, they start filming the next Indiana Jones.
Yes.
Now, as far as Harrison Ford's appearance in Crystal Skull, it was okay, obviously older, but it didn't look like he was barely hanging on.
I said this when Force Awakens.
He looked a little grizzled, but...
Well, I said this when Force Awakens came out. When Crystal Skull came out, like, I watched the movie going, this looks like a guy in an Indiana Jones costume. Whereas Han Solo was on the screen. Indiana, that just didn't, he was kind of frumpy, and it didn't work.
It was okay.
It was okay.
Let's put it this way. If you're expecting, oh dear God, they take his cane away from him before they yell, roll it.
Right.
It was okay. And of course, remember from the first film, it's not the age.
It's the mileage.
It's the mileage.
Yeah.
So, you got to figure at the point where Crystal Skull was filmed in the Indiana Jones timeline, that's about 10 years past the events of, no, it's more than that.
More than that, yeah.
Because it was, World War II wasn't even happening in the first and third one. I mean, the Nazis were rising to power, I think in 36, and the World War II started in 37.
Right.
I want to say. Yeah, of course, we didn't come into it, I think, until 41 after Pearl Harbor.
Right.
But, I mean, at that point, the Nazis were rising. They were just being dicks in Germany.
Yeah.
And then it gets, then it goes from
yeah,
there.
Crystal Skull was like...
Early 50s. Because remember,
50s,
it was rock and roll.
Yeah, that's right. It was like 50, 51.
Yeah, because Lucas wanted to do, he wanted Mutt, another great name. Thanks, George. him to be kind of like a Marlon Brando clone with
Right.
the leather and the jacket
Yep.
and the rock.
I think there's even like a pull from Wild One. I think he pulls up on a motorcycle. I think there's
Yeah.
a shot directly.
Oh, okay. I don't know if it's a shot thing, but yes, that's what they were going. Well, George.
Yeah.
I mean, he, Kira Kurosawa.
Exactly.
And so let's pull it
I
all
think,
in.
but that was more homage. But I get it. yeah.
Homage, right? Okay. So at that point, it's been a while, and he's still looking okay. So I don't know where they're going to place this one. I mean, I love it when Indy fights the Nazis, and the only way to do it now in any realistic term is to go to South America. Seriously.
Interesting.
But here's the thing. Steven Spielberg said in an interview, after doing Schindler's List, I just can't do any
Nazis.
lighthearted, fuck those Nazis, and it's too much.
Do
I'm
something
you know
else.
what? I get that.
Fair enough.
I get that. I'm all for making fun of Nazis at all, just showing them as little respect and making fun of them. But you know what? They were horrible people doing
Absolutely.
horrible things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Hogan's Heroes has its place, I suppose, but
But it doesn't. But
Yeah.
no, I get it. We don't need that. He's fought plenty of Nazis. Let's get something else.
But it's so much better when he fights the Nazis.
Yeah, let's see what they take it. The way they'll sell me
Yeah.
is if
They hand it off to Chris Pratt.
if Chris Pratt's in it, that would be great. But
Well,
no.
we know who's not going to be in it.
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. He's kind of persona non grata in A-list films now.
Well, he
And he's
also
still
he also
working.
directly shit on the movie, which you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't even if it is a shit movie, and I've seen some actors like kind of get away with it. Many years down the line, you can't shit on the movie kind of right around it.
My favorite is Natalie Portman. It's not Shakespeare. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah,
You know what else
that-
is not Shakespeare? Everything else in the entire world. So well done there. What is Shakespeare? Shakespeare. Yeah.
No, my how they will sell me is if they stick to canon.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles?
No.
Okay. In the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, they would basically do 3 versions of Indiana Jones. There was the 8-year-old version where he's like going on adventures with Henry. There was the 22-year-old who was kind of finding his way, like kind of post River Phoenix,
So he's dead?
no. And the 90-year-old Indy who had the hat, but he had an eye patch. And it's like, okay, if you throw that in, I'm sold. Just to tie it in, even if it's at the end, or even if he has it the whole point.
Just get the eye patch.
Just get
to
it
happen.
in there. Make that thing happen. And I didn't watch it religiously, but I was like, okay, this is canon. This is supposed to be what it is. Let's do it. Let's go for it.
It could be interesting. I'm not so sure about handing the whip over because I think everyone involved, Kathleen Kennedy, I don't know if she would even be I don't know if she would even produce on the new one because now that Lucas is with Disney, I don't know.
Maybe
Well,
not.
it would probably be Lucas. No, it would be Lucasfilm through Disney because Lucasfilm did it. It's just now it's instead of being distributed through Paramount, now it's distributed through Disney. But Kathleen and George Lucas, when you can get them to talk about it, and Steven Spielberg's like, we're not interested in handing it off. When Harrison's done making the films, however many that is, that's the end of it. And you know what? I'm fine.
Yeah.
Just because something was popular doesn't mean it has to be endlessly rebooted
5 is
or
enough.
continued.
5 is plenty.
Some would say 3 was enough.
Yes.
And there are even some others that would say 1 was enough.
Was plenty, yeah.
I mean, if they had stopped at Raiders of the Lost Ark, that would have been wonderful.
Perfect, yeah.
I like Temple of Doom. Watching it now, I'm like, ooh, that's really offensive to Indians.
Yes. Well, so is Sala to a degree in the first one. In the third one, I should say. He's a little more in my brother-in-law's car, and the camels.
I must 5 camels.
A little bit.
They tried to play up the comedy within the cultural context it was in. Right. He was always kind of
Both him and Denham Elliott were a little bumbling in
Denham
that.
Elliott.
Yeah. So
you'll never see him. Hello, does anyone speak English?
that was
Hello?
really funny, but he wasn't that dopey in Raiders. So,
Well, yeah, because remember in the first film, he was pretty.
he was the guy.
He was the guy. He was the looking at him with an top men, So, anyway, I'm looking forward to all the new stuff because I will watch it. I will enjoy it in the moment, and at the very least, I can walk away saying I saw it. It wasn't for me. There are very few things that I will get visibly angry about because it was done improperly.
And guys, if you
like Wrinkle in Time, I'm sorry. I wanted that to be good. It was terrible.
I will defer to you on that.
My God,
it was.
terrible.
I mean, for me, not having read the book, I was like, okay, it's okay, but I understand.
I mean, I enjoy the female empowerment and the diverse casting, loving it. They fucked the story.
So how is your fundraising campaign to reshoot it going? Is it doing well?
It has generated $0 because I am not that kind of a dick. Oh, I'm a dick. I'm just not, that kind of a dick. Yeah. And you know what? If in 15, 20 years, the memory of that failure, there's always someone who goes, we can do it. And that's what I'm... do remakes of films that had the right idea but couldn't realize it, or the source material wasn't done properly. Remake that. Remake Frankenhooker. Okay. But don't remake St. Elmo's Fire. It's perfect just like it is, just like Magnolia. So I guess the moral of the story, kids, is you can't go home.
Yeah, sure.
You can never go home.
Yeah.
You may occupy the same space as home, but it's not going to be the same because you're not the same.
Exactly.
Even if it's exactly as it was as you remember it, you're different. You can't experience it the same way. Even if they did a shot-for-shot remake of A New Hope, it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah.
Because you're different, and it's just you can't go home. However, you can...
Medication time. Medication time.
We ran out of time. I'll tell you next week.
The 9 Million Names of Pod was conceived, written, and performed by Michael Reed and Dan Bauman, with Abdul Beni Hassan as the sound of splintering wood. Research, transportation, and exasperated looks by Courtney Lohner. Technical assistance by Cubase, Pro Tools, Skynet, QLab, Deep Thought, Big Brother, and Eddie, your shipboard computer. Financial consideration provided by the Wayne Foundation, Stark Industries, the Piranha Brothers, and LexCorp. Legal counsel by the Offices of Howard and Fine. Damn you, CBS. What's next? Riker, the series?
I'll watch.
Our intro music is written by Tim Akers. This podcast is sponsored by Deep Shag Records and is a production of Audio Primate. Throw us a couple stars on iTunes, why don't you? Listen, watch on YouTube. Listen on SoundCloud. Stream us on Stitcher. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Or email us. comlink@billionpod.com. Until this happens again, I'm Dan Bauman.
I'm Brett Spiner's eager agent.
LOC.
Audio Primate.